Our top three, if you want to write them down on your sheet and tell us your issues, right? So if you don't get a chance to get to the microphone, we still have the benefit of what you think. Our education is number one. Economic opportunity is number two. And racial and ethnic relations is number three. Now, the way we were going to divide this is we were going to give 15 to 20 minutes for a discussion of the issues in each one of those areas. But again, we are mindful that you have other things that you also want us to hear. So you may share that with us, but also share with us your key education issues, key economic opportunity issues, or key racial and ethnic relations issues. Okay? All right. So I'd like to open up the floor.
Thank you. My name is Bill Monroe, and I'm a member of the St. Louis School Board, and I knew without a doubt that education was going to be tops. And I also knew that race was going to be an issue. And I'll be brief because I know there are quite a few. I've been here since 10:30 this morning because I wanted an opportunity to speak because it's important to me. I have one homemade sign. You have to excuse my penmanship. I'm an ex-St. Louis police officer. Don't let the long hair fool you. And I was a good cop. I was a strong cop, and the killing of my people in my presence wasn't allowed. Beating them, harassing them wasn't allowed. And there are some that even remember some fights that I've had in police stations in uniform with other men with guns. That's a horrible sight. But I won't dwell on that because you can be a black man and you can be a police officer and you can serve your community. And Officer Friendly was a part of our program. I sure like to see it come back. But let's very quickly, I was also the founder of a charter school called Ferguson Commission. That was my school. And I got a butt whooping up there on Goodfellow like you would never believe when Thurgood Marshall was overtaken and seized from me by Imagine Charter School Management Company, was ultimately put out of this town. And I'll be very brief. Race is a factor in all things. And since this situation with Normandy High School, I've been in an attempt to finance another school. I got up off the ground after that whooping I took, and I put together another school called Harriet Tubman. But as race being a factor, and I want to say this to this commission, men and women of color are not allowed the same financial opportunities and access to capital. And I'm one that believes and feels very strongly that we should be involved in educating our own. We own nothing in our community. We don't own the gas station. We have, DESI has failed us, and right now, the person who ran DESI into the ground is going to choose her own successor, and without a lot of transparency. But what I want to say to this commission is, open up some funds so that we can build our own institution. I no longer look to DESI to start another charter school because that made it very difficult for those of us without funds. So what Bill Monroe is looking for, I borrowed $2.5 million when I opened up Thurgood Marshall, and I paid it back in 3 years in spite of the charter school management company that disrailed me, that took me out. And I can do it again. What our community needs is real dollars. We don't need $200,000 or $300,000 sent over here to this program, 100,000 sent over. We need real schools. And the school that I've designed called Harriet Tubman will address the real problem in our community: crime, homelessness. I don't know if many of you know, in St. Louis City, they spend $2.5 million every year to transport homeless children, and they do it out in St. Louis County. We have the ability to educate our own children and bring them up in a way consistent with reality. And I don't care if the child doesn't have a father or a mother. If we can design programs that we can go to the moon, certainly we can design curriculum to address what our children are going through. And the key to what's going on right now in our community and the need is for education, skills, and job training. I've passed out a flyer to all of you guys, and I think one of the, somebody smiled when I said that Bill Monroe is looking for an angel. Well, I am looking for an angel. I'm looking for an angel investor. I got a drawer full of rejections in my house where banks have said, well, Bill, it looks good. It looks good. But no, we can't do it, okay? I'm looking for a collaborative partner to say, Bill, we're going to front you $2.5 million for the 6 or 7 months it takes until the money starts coming from the state. And that's what we need. We need institutions in our community to educate our children, and when they graduate, they don't have to go to Vatterott or some of these other predators out here that's taking our children's money. We have the ability to educate our children, and when they leave after 4 years, they'll be able to go into a job. We can train them, and the curriculum that I've designed has to do with working a half a day in education and the other half in jobs and skills. And I'm going to relinquish this microphone to my other friend and activist, Brother Cleo. Thank
you. Mr. Willis?
Hello, how you doing? You meaning everybody, you dig. I first want to give honor to God on the set. I really appreciate God. I want to thank him for his son named Jesus, you dig. And I want to thank Jesus for his most mighty grace. I want to thank him for slapping the beer out of my mouth, slapping the marijuana taste out of my mouth, you dig, long time ago. Because now I can see clearly now that the clouds has gone. I want to thank Jesus for introducing the Afro, you dig? And there's nothing wrong with it because Black Think Tank always said what's needed for our Black youth are role models, positive role models. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Fire Chief. Isn't it all right? Isn't it about time for us to say, you dig, that Jesus, not just our Savior, but our brother. We supposed to be so barbaric and don't love one another. How will you feel if you've been oppressed and depressed and repressed over and over again, and this most monstrous institutional beast called racism made all kinds of powerful, positive moves to transfer reality into fantasy and Jesus from black to white? Let me tell you something. If I have a Bible, and in my Bible, everybody in there is black, and I feel so good when I read my Bible. How you think a black brother, a baby from the cradle all the way up, how you think that man will feel realizing spirituality and black experience? And before it was Africa, it was a land for all people, Ethiopians. Before that, it was land for Cush and Kemetic people. We was in tune with grace. I can be on one side of the river, the largest river in the world. You can be on the other side of the river, Nile River. You can whisper to me, I can whisper back to you, because God made me, God made you, God made the river, and we was in tune, so in tune with grace, and we've been separated from that. And I feel good when we really start macking and rapping about Eden eccentricity. Former board member of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also served on that board, was Maurice Chambers. Maurice Chambers served on that board, and he also served on the Kerner Report. I was blind to the Kerner Report was all about. I had to go back and check it out and look at it. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. Look at the Kerner report, study it, and then move in another area. Move in an area about unionism. What was union all about? Union was developed because they was afraid that blacks was coming out of slavery, who was going to be free, and they created a union. It was the white cotton people created the union to make sure that the slaves who had all of the trades don't come into the working field. We got that today. The city of St. Louis, the state of Missouri, the federal government put money out there to create jobs. The union controlled all of the jobs. They determine who goes on the workforce, who comes out on the workforce. There is no statistics in terms of the hardcore racism that black youth experiencing today, black males experiencing today. There are no blacks on the executive board, in the trade unions. Look at all of the executive trade unions. They control the job, not the citizens. And they have an interest that we don't control the job. So we come out here and we march and talk about, well, what about black on black crime? If the jobs are here, the union controls who get on the job. They make sure blacks don't get on the jobs. They make sure we stay in the ghetto. Then we can now talk about black on black crime by white design at every level and at every degree. Life is about God and a job. You take a job and you take God away from us too. And whenever we all agree and say Jesus was a brother, how many nuns would start divorcing Jesus? So it's so important they work hand in hand, spirituality and jobs. Now we're going to mac and rap about Michael Brown. Michael Brown got off because of the goals and objectives of the police department, the police association today, because the brothers came out with their hands up, and now that association is getting ready to move against the brothers on the Ram football team. So we got some problems here. This whole piece about institutionalized racism, trying to make us feel small and look small. And every time they try to get involved in the appropriation budget, whether it's federal or state, they always talk about welfare. They're always talking about us. Let's take some money from us. Welfare was not designed because of us. Welfare was designed because of England. England created the welfare system. It came from them first. It came into America when there was a civil war was about to take place. And when the Civil War was getting ready to take place, when the Civil War in fact took place, that's when they came up with the welfare system strictly for the white women.
Okay, Mr. Willis, we got to let other people speak.
I am so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Where am I?
Thank you. Okay, we have several people who want to speak, so be mindful that others, and you have 60 seconds. Here.
Hello. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for making transparency a fundamental part of this process. My name is Colin Wellenkamp. I'm a teacher. I teach public policy, and I was born and raised in St. Anne, Missouri. This is my home. I care very deeply about it. My family still lives there today in my family home, so this hits to my heart, and this is a process that's going to be very near to me on a personal level. There are a couple of people that I would encourage you to reach out to and hear from that are much more talented and learned than I. First is Governor Douglas Wilder. He's the first black governor of the state of Virginia. He was also the first governor elected since Reconstruction in the United States. He understood that in order to be an effective leader, he couldn't take the urban areas for granted or the rural areas to brush them aside. He went to all areas. And I think he'll have something very wise to share with this commission about how effective leadership includes the entire community. Another person I think you should reach out to is Dr. Joe Leonard. He is the longest serving Assistant Secretary of Civil Rights for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. He is a dear friend of mine. I worked with him a long time. But for that man, more people would have died after Katrina than did, but for Joe Leonard. I suggest you talk to him because he will have something very important to share with you about bridging the divide between urban areas and rural areas and how to get the two to understand each other, because that is why the president appointed him to his position today. The third person you should talk to is Hillary Shelton. He is the legislative director for the National NAACP. He is, yes, and he is from here. He is a fantastic man. I learned so much from that man, and he will be able to show you some very important things. Finally, Mr. Martin Dickerson. He is the Director of Program Development for 100 Black Men National. Martin Dickerson is also a very talented individual, and he will be able to tell you at a programmatic level some wonderful suggestions on how to meet those three priorities and how to dissect that rather verbose executive order that you have to get through. The second thing I just want to share with you after you talk to those very excellent individuals that I've had the pleasure of working with personally is I would urge you to take a close examination of two budgets within the state of Missouri. First, the university system's budget, and second, the state's overall budget. There is a program at the federal level called the COPS program. It's the Community Oriented Policing Services program. It has been cut by 44% since 2010. Maybe we are seeing the unintended consequences of those cuts. How does the state of Missouri spend its COPS money? Where does it go? Who gets it? What's it spent on? What's the training? Secondly, what is the state of Missouri's budget for non-lethal options for police departments? In St. Louis County, you have 90, that's 90 municipalities. It is the largest amount of municipalities per capita in any other part of the country. I teach public policy to graduate students from all over the world, and I use St. Louis County as a case study of what not to do. All the duplicative services, the duplicative budgets, ridiculous way to handle a regional government body. Look at that. Finally, the budget of the Missouri university system. Bill was right. It's not necessarily access to higher education, it's affordability of higher education. Higher education has gone up 500% in cost over the last 15 years. Of course, that's going to price many of the community out of existence. They have no prayer of meeting that sort of bill. Look at that budget. How many times has the state raised the budget for in-state tuition? How can programs be developed to allow for members of the community who don't have a dream of meeting those price points access to that education? Look at that carefully. And finally, if I can be of any further assistance or help, or make any other further introductions, I'm at your service. I wish you Godspeed and good luck. And I want you to know that I'm with you. Thank you.
Oh, she's gonna hold it.
Colin Wellenkamp. C-O-L-I-N. Last name W-E-L-L-E-N-K-A-M-P. I'm an adjunct professor of public policy at Washington Adventist University.
Hi, greetings to all of you. My name is Ruth Baker Eel, and I just want to know, how do you prioritize the war on poverty? I mean, how do you really do that when you ask us to prioritize what's first, second, third, and the list goes on? I want to know, how do you and where do you start? If my babies are hungry, can't go to school, I don't have a job, I don't do this, and the can'ts and the don'ts and the negatives continue, how do you say to me, which one do you want first? There is no first to me. I need all of them. So I just want to know what your plan is that makes you think I can prioritize poverty, because I know that's what it's about. My dad would always say, follow the money trail. And I don't see any money trail at my house. So how do you prioritize what dollar do I get first? Thank you.
Ma'am? Yes. Spell your first and last name.
R-U-T-H, Ruth Baker, B-A-K-E-R, Eel, E-L.
Great. Before the next person comes up, anyone still have a keypad? Because we need that for the next meeting. Thank you, Ruth. Please turn them in up here if you do have one. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. My name is Bob Pieper. I live in Richmond Heights. I'll be very brief. Just have 3 items for you quickly. First off, just as a housekeeping note, I would ask that in the future, if possible, the commission hold its meetings at night. I don't know if that's going to be possible or not, but yeah, I know a lot of people who want to be here who could not. Secondly, I would just like to say if the commission is serious about providing disenfranchised populations with real power, which I'm sure it is, I would like to see the commission doing more to provide education to disadvantaged populations on how to run for office and serve on governmental boards and commissions and boards of aldermen, because that's real as opposed to symbolic power. I'm with a group called Common Sense for St. Louis. Some of us have some expertise in this area, and we would be happy to work with you on that. Final point, I want to speak in opposition to what the gentleman was just saying a minute ago. I would urge this commission not to arbitrarily consider the merger of municipalities, our police departments, or other government agencies, as that would actually serve to further disempower disadvantaged communities. It's a lot easier to run for the Board of Aldermen or become the mayor in a small community than it is in a large community. Quality of police department, our government, has nothing to do with size. We all know of some very well-run small communities and some poorly run communities, and similarly some well-run large municipalities and not so well-run large municipalities. So I would urge this commission to be very careful about advocating consolidations of government entities without great justification, because I think there's a lot of people who really like the way their cities are running now, and I think that would only serve to inflame a situation that's already fairly inflamed. I thank you for your time.
Sir, spell your name.
My first name is Bob, my last name is Pieper, P as in Paul, I-E-P once again, E-R.
State your name and spell your name.
Okay, my name is Judith Kemner, Judith Kemner. I'm a retired social studies teacher. I have no advice for this commission. You have a heck of a job ahead of you. What I want to ask, please, please, please come back to Ferguson on your meetings. This is where you need to be. This is where it started, and it's going to go out from here, but please, please come back. Secondly, I'd like people to know I'm missing a prayer group. Archbishop Carlson and the clergy are meeting in January, Wabash Park. Started at 4:30 to pray for this, to pray for you, to pray for Ferguson, to pray for justice for all people. Thirdly, I want to commend you of color who are here and are educated. You came from a family who cared about education. You cared about education. You took it upon yourself. You took the responsibility to do it. That's one thing that isn't being said. It has to come from the home. It has to come from parents who care. Thank you.
Excuse me. This is about listening and hearing one another. But just in a moment of transparency, and these are the difficult places. I want to thank you for the sentiment of what you said, but I don't know any black parents who don't care. I was fortunate enough that my parents both had an education, and they both had jobs, and they worked really hard, and I was an only child. And so because of that, I was afforded some things that other people whose parents loved them just as much couldn't provide for them. So I don't take what you said to be that you were trying to castigate, but what we need to understand here is that what we say, words matter. And so I wanted to say that every parent in here, I believe, is here because they love their babies just as much. And the equity piece we have to work on is that everybody really doesn't get the same opportunities in America. They don't. And perhaps a lot of us don't understand that. It is only by the grace of God, only by the grace of God, that I was able to get the education that I received. And I'm going to be real transparent with you. As a mother who ended up with a marriage that didn't work and 3 children, I have a child who has not been able to finish her education because I can't afford the price of education when she lost her scholarship. It's a very complicated thing. And so I ask that as we start this process, that we begin by believing and trusting the best of one another. And that means starting by thinking that parents do care, no matter what the media says. Parents care, no matter what the media says. Thank you.
All right, my name is Charles Wade. I'm being asked to say it first, Charles Wade. The one thing that I would just like to say is there are a lot of people who have a lot of mistrust in this process, and that it seems that you guys want everyone here to trust you implicitly. You just want that. But the people of Ferguson, I will be very clear, I'm not from Ferguson. I've been here for three months, and I've gotten to know a lot of people here. They feel like you guys don't know them, so how can you advocate on their behalf? And the reality is, for people to come up and make comments like the woman just made about you all, that's the divide, is that people see you guys as above a lot of the people that you're trying to serve. There are people who can't be here right now because they have hourly wage jobs. To come to this meeting would mean a loss of income, which means that if you're already in a position where you're trying to make ends meet, you have to make a choice between where your convictions are and your bills. And that's tough for people. I've gone around Ferguson and I've seen people hurting long before this. When you talk to people and you hear them say, it is about Mike Brown, but Mike Brown represents so many different things. Mike Brown represents the issue of poverty in this community, where people stood outside with no resources of their own to really address this situation and have had to rely on so many other people to try to address it for them. So they watched this young man lay outside for 4 hours, and they saw continued disrespect after disrespect after disrespect. It's insult to injury upon injury upon injury. And to ask people to come here and have an open mind and an open heart to you all, to many people who they do not see as a part of their community, they don't look at you and see you as their neighbor. You guys have to understand that. And the reality of it is that you have to do some work to build that trust. One meeting is not going to be enough, and having it be open and live streamed and all of those things, it's not enough, because the reality is the conversations are happening on the parking lot. You want to know where the commission is? The commission is happening at Andy Worm parking lot. The commission is happening at Canfield. The commission is happening on the subway and on the buses. Everywhere that you all are not is where the commission is happening. So if you want to understand how people feel, get out of the seats and go into the community. You want to know how people feel? Ask children who have to walk home and break into chants when they see police officers. You ask those mothers how they feel, because those moms are not here because they're at work right now trying to feed their children. So let's address unemployment, let's address underemployment, let's address situations with housing, let's address people who, the United Way registered 2,000 people in 3 days for services back in August. When I spoke to them a month ago, they had only gotten through 700 of the intake forms. That's 1,300 people who haven't been addressed since the summertime, who now have to heat their homes. And people say, continue to wait, and to continue to wait. I apologize for cursing earlier, but I'm past respectability. I have a degree. I come from a great home, but I am just as frustrated as everybody else that's here, because where I come from, this wouldn't have gone on that long. I'm a native Washingtonian. I'm from the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and black folks wield a lot more power there because they have money. And that is the difference here. As many people have said, the people here don't have the money to pull on you all and to pull on the politicians the way that they need to. So if you guys want to build the trust with them, hold meetings when people can get there, go out and do the work so that people know you beyond a resume, beyond a soundbite. Do that work, and then we can begin the larger work, because then they will trust you.
So Lana, 1 second. I want to just make a couple of commitments so really I'm just being transparent more than anything else. So our commitments have been that meetings will alternate, because there are people who work in the day and people who work in the evening. So all meetings will not be during the day, so you need to know that first and foremost. There will be meetings in the evenings. Second, we will return to Ferguson, but all the meetings won't be in Ferguson. Because this is a regional issue. Quite frankly, it's a national issue. And there are some places where we want to take meetings that represent the realities of the challenges that we face. So yes, we'll return to Ferguson, but we'll also be in other places. We haven't worked all of those out yet, all the schedule out yet. But just please know that we recognize, and we're here on point and on purpose, that the work begins here, but it doesn't end here. So just wanted to make those commitments and let you know that.
Good evening, committee. My name is Adrian Shropshire. I'm a 25-year resident of Ferguson, Missouri. I moved here from Dayton, Ohio. I'm aware of what happened in Cincinnati, and I'm aware of what happened in Dayton, Ohio, back in the 60s. Just like this. Go down the street, we saw burnout buildings. We saw, it's called urban decay. That is the worst type of decay a community can take on. We're talking about a 30-year rebuilding process. We want things to happen now, but what happened Monday, I sat on my kitchen table and I looked at it. I sat around the table and I looked at it, and tears came in my eyes just like it did when I was back in Dayton, Ohio. To see someone come in our community and tear it apart like it happened Monday, it's outrageous. It was nothing we could do about it. It happens. But there's some things that I saw that I need to bring to the committee to address one of the issues that I just heard Reverend Willis said. I practice construction. I'm a journeyman carpenter. I'm a union carpenter. I've been in the trade for 34 years. I'm retired now. Yeah, I moved to Missouri, and I worked 100%. I completed my program. I'm drawing my pension. But I worked with other young blacks that didn't last 2 minutes, didn't last 15 seconds. They walk on the job, oh no, we got somebody else. Sorry. I've been there. I went through the Urban League tutorial program, and they were my sponsors to keep me on the job. I went through the Appalachia program. I don't know if anybody knows about the Appalachia program. That was a program established down in Appalachia to get blacks into construction, or minorities, period. I went through that program. I went through rioting. I went through burning. This is outrageous. But what is more outrageous, I went to the internet the other night, and what did I see? Underlying issues in Ferguson. Rooftops, guns, civilian militia. Are we for real? Civilian militia? Website. Ex-veterans, patriots, medical supplies, doctors, nurses. This is crazy. A revolution behind their backs is being staged. We have to stop it. That is something that we as citizens of Ferguson have to work on. We as citizens. Let me put my glasses on. I got a few things I want to go over, and I'll make it quick. We have to trust our law enforcement. It was 60% law enforcement trust in Canfield Green before Michael Brown's death, his shooting. 60%. What happened? That's what we have to find out. What happened? Was that a lie? Were those numbers crazy? But we have to find out what happened. We have to get out into the streets. These young adults, their different backgrounds doesn't give them the ability to reason. They've never had to reason. We have to get out there and talk to them like they're our own kids. It ain't easy to be a parent. Or sorry, it's not easy to be a parent. But to go out and listen and understand as a parent to all these youth that are here in Ferguson that are hurting. We have to get off our butts, put our suits down, put some t-shirts and tennis shoes on, and get out there and ask them, or tell them, really, you have to tell them, I hear you. I hear you. Now, what can we do? I hear you. And I guarantee you, the protests will stop if you just listen and understand their plight. Illiteracy. And I'm done. Illiteracy is a big problem. And if you change the literacy rate, they will understand, we will learn, and we will comprehend. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Oh, sir. Spelling on your last name. S-H-R-O-P. S-H-I-R-E. Spell your first and last name.
Lydia Caesar, L-Y, I'm newly married. Lydia Adams. L-Y-D-I-A is the first name. Last name is Adams, A-D-A-M-S.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I'm actually not from St. Louis. I'm from New York City, and I moved here 3 months ago for marriage. What I noticed here is the extreme racial divide that I don't notice at home in New York. It's very different. And I've been active since I've been here. It's been 3 months. Started a group called The Truth Telling Project. Website is thetruchtellingproject.org. And it focuses on how important it is for us to have these conversations. This Michael Brown case busts the discussion of race wide open in this nation, and it needs to keep happening. Because when you don't talk about things, nothing happens. Talk about it to the point where it makes you uncomfortable. I put together a project for this truth-telling mission that we're doing and trying to get people on the street to talk about what's going on. Just tell me your opinion. It's like fighting. People don't want to talk about it, especially white people. Because I'm assuming it makes you guys extremely uncomfortable. And it's not all white people, because so many white people in this nation are not racist, but what a lot of white people are is blind to the issues, blind to what we've had to go through every day, blind to our reality of what it is being black in America, how the police treat us versus how they treat you guys, how they treat my brother versus how they treat your brother. It's night and day. And because we don't talk about it, a lot of white people don't think there's an issue. And then they say we're pulling the race card, when it's all about race. This nation is built, the racism is woven into the fabric of America and it's coming to haunt us. It's claiming the lives of our black young men. Every day, it's getting worse and worse. I have a husband, I have a brother. This is my life. And you guys need to really listen. Ask the questions. How do the officers make you feel? Do you feel protected? You'll hear the answer is no. And that is why it is so important for us to just talk about it. Have conversations with people of color to find out how we're feeling and what we need, because this nation doesn't feel like it moves for us. It feels like it moves 100% against us. So if I leave nothing else with you guys today, thetruth-telling-project.org, log on, check it out, and start really, really talking about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dana Sebastian Duncan. DANASEBASTIAN Duncan DUNCAN. So I'm here representing myself first and foremost. I live locally. I've lived and grown up in North St. Louis County my entire life, half of a decade. And I rarely share that, but I'm being transparent now. So I also represent my job, my employment. I had to go through some circles to make sure I could take off today to be here to do this. Adolescent Resource Center is a program of Queen of Peace. Northern Arts Council is my full-time volunteer gig when I can take a break from work. And lately, the last year and a half or so, I've been volunteering with the Ferguson Youth Initiative, which is an excellent program, locally, nonprofit, grassroots, much like Northern Arts Council. There is no paid staff. It's all volunteer-run, volunteer-led. So during the past year, I just want to highlight one really strong program that evolved from the Ferguson Youth Initiative, which is called the Ferguson Community Service Program. And I like to call it kind of like a, I don't know, prevention / baby step, first step, mini adolescent sort of drug court, or behavior court, or juvenile court, or adolescent court, whatever you want to call it. But basically what it is it's an opportunity this is a partnership with Ferguson Youth Initiative, Adolescent Resource Center, Queen of Peace, Provident Counseling, which provides mental health, behavioral health counseling as well. And who am I missing? I think that's basically it. And Ferguson, yeah, the city of Ferguson. So they agreed to, this was a brainchild of Gail Babcock, who's 60, 80 hour a week volunteer with FYI. And all of us got together and said, what can we do to help local youth? What can we do to help this problem that we have a lot of youth not showing up in court, a lot of young people, young adults, not showing up in court because they have warrants or they have charges that they can't afford to pay, so they don't show up, so then they have fines because they can't afford to pay them, because, so it escalates. So they developed this program where they are allowed to do community service. And I'm personally a person in long-term recovery, and I've seen the judicial system on both sides, and I've met with a lot of community leaders, and I've been on the other side of the desk with my own attorney many decades ago. So I identify with this problem. So anyway, long story short, we started doing this in February of this year officially, and we've seen huge positive results. I mean, it's hard to identify. So here's one example, and this is multiplied now since then. So a young person goes through, they show up in court. If they're 19 or under, this is partially funded through St. Louis County Children's Service Fund. They're allowed to be screened and assessed through one of the behavioral health providers for any kind of risk factors. And then they may be assigned some kind of follow-up assessment, counseling if needed or not, if not needed. but at least, the very least that they get is some kind of education, like prevention education. Oftentimes it's a pat on the back and some evidence-based counseling that supports their already amazing behavior, you know, because we meet a lot of young people that simply had a bad day, a bad night, and there's nothing really that serious. They have a misdemeanor charge, they can't afford to pay it, and it's, you know, so to wrap it up, sometimes it's a little bit more significant, some of the issues that evolve that they share about, and maybe their charges were something like trespassing or something also insignificant, but when you start to talk to them, you find out more needs, there are more risk factors, there's more that really needs to be addressed. So anyway, so the kids, the young adults and youth show up, they do community service. Sometimes it's something like painting murals this weekend. That was one of them. Sometimes it's open arts. I'm really involved in the arts, so I like the creative stuff. So we get them engaged, and then they keep coming back, and then they finish their community service, and they keep coming back. And then they can become peer mentors if they show an interest in some leadership skills. And then sometimes they keep coming back even when we're not incentivizing them with, you know, this mentor stipend. Sometimes they just keep coming back because they want to come back, because they're engaged. So I would just ask that more funding and support would go to programs like that, alternative programs that help to engage youth, that help to engage families, young adults, old adults, you know, people in general. And transportation. The transportation that was so low, I believe that's really a much higher significant issue, and the problem is that the people that need transportation the most weren't at this meeting to click the little clicker. So I'd like to see that raised up also.
Thank you very much. So I want to do something just very quickly. So let me say this first. First of all, we want to keep our commitments, and we've made a commitment to listen, and we've made a commitment of time. So let me say this to everyone. Number one, at least I know Rich and I, we're going to stay here and listen to whoever wants to talk, so we'll allow that. But we don't want people to miss the commitments we make as far as next steps. So I want to share some of those now. In case you had your time allotted to stay till 5 and now you're trying to figure out how you're going to get the next thing done, or you got to pick up kids from daycare by 6, because we recognize that's real as well. So let me just say this for next steps. We've said before that all meetings will be posted. Make sure you have STL positivechange.org, stlpositivechange.org. Follow also on Twitter at STLChange, at STLChange, for updates for the first postings of when the next meetings will be. We've said next week's meeting is scheduled for 12 to 5, Monday, December 8th. I'm going to commit to revisit that time. We've got to do that with the commissioners because we've already asked them to block that time. We do know that we're already scheduled. We have asked the commissioners to hold evening time on December 15th for a meeting from 5 to 9. So we'll revisit, watch for the posting this week for next week's meeting to see if it is possible to make that shift based upon the commissioner's schedules, because we want to make sure that we have enough people to continue the work as well. Second, also look this week for the meeting minutes to be posted prior to next week's meeting. So we've had this meeting documented both on video and we've had it transcribed for the sake of minutes. And so you'll have those things posted as well. You will have a document forthcoming that will also reflect all of the things that have been captured today. So not just minutes, but you also posted concerns that will be prepared, that we need to process through. You've processed hopes that we need to process through. All of those things will come to the commissioners. Those things will also be summarized and projected back to you for the sake of accountability. What do you have prioritized today will also be posted for the sake of that accountability. So look for those things. Really do use the website as a resource. It's going to have more this week than just our bios in that information and posting for meetings. It'll have the resource of this meeting, so you will have that as well. Other next steps, okay. So, I'm sorry, the website is stlpositivechange.org. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. stlpositivechange.org, and follow on Twitter at stlchange. Okay.
And
Thank
if
you.
anyone cannot stay, those green cards that you filled out, where you signed in, if you would drop them off, there's a basket right there on the table for you to drop off the green cards, and we will record that, and you'll find that information online as well. Okay, state your
I
first.
also want to, for this, just for the sake of accountability as well, I also want to know, I know the commissioners have responsibilities as well. We've got a commitment to stay and listen. I don't know that everyone can stay, so I just want to say, if commissioners need to leave at any time, officially, I will say here at 5:21, 5:23, that we're closing so that they can be released to leave if they need to as well. But we are continuing to stay, listen as much as folks have, as much as anyone can, but that releases everyone in case you cannot. Okay.
Hello. My name's Orlando Travis. I own a home in Ferguson. I particularly want to talk to you all about police and their interaction with the public, and not just black people. Because so many people feel violated when, for example, if a police walks up on you, this is my space. This right here, this is my space. And if I just do like that to move him back off of me, that's considered assault upon an officer. That's not right. Typically, if an officer is handcuffing a person, number one, it is uncomfortable as hell to have your arms like this. What they gonna do? They gonna tighten it up, click, click, click. The interaction with police and the general public is terrible. And I know I can say it to Dan Isom, I know I can say it to the sergeant, I can say it to the fellas out there. It hurt to know that my tax dollars is going into you treating me like, hey, I'm just meat. Lock him up. I pay my taxes. Most of my plates be right. But other than that, I mean, seriously, it's not necessary to treat me like, hey, man, we got to find something on them. You know, I've been stopped just because, hey, man, you know, I got this little beater, and it smokes a little. I got my seatbelt on, I'm sticking it, there go the lights. I'm doing 34 miles an hour, and I'm pulled over. Yeah, well, just checking me for nothing. You know, you got any drugs on you? How you gonna ask me that? What you pulled me over for? You know? And I just wanna go straight to the Mike Brown issue. The interaction with police in a violent manner sometimes is not necessary. It just isn't. I know sometimes y'all get with people and man, they go crazy out of nowhere at a snap. But you and your brothers have to remember that your family, the police, your family, you have cousins who are residents, who are not police people, who getting brutalized and thrown around like they just meat. And hey, that's your relative, you know? So it's happening to everybody. It's man, I'm telling you, check out YouTube. You'll see white folks, black folks, Asians, I mean, just slung around like nothing. So if there's anything that I would like to see from the commission is to get with your police brothers, because I know Dan Isom and this sergeant right here, y'all got them right there. They looking at you like, but nobody move on them. You know, they have your back. But we need to know as taxpayers, do you have ours and will you treat us respectfully? Because I'm gonna tell you, I know some people feel like Ferguson they were right, they were justified. Some people feel like Nixon did the right thing. No, man. He put the National Guard at the wrong place at the wrong time, and then put the police at burned out buildings like, yeah, we got this. You got garbage. There are other small businesses in the area that needed to be protected. And I know some of my people, man, they went crazy. But I just want to say, please do something about the interaction with police and the citizens. We need respect.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ashley Bernal. That's A-S-H-L-E-Y. Bernal, B-E-R-N-A-U-G-H. I am speaking to you as a fairly new resident, a first-time homeowner, a wife, a sister, and a mother. I have a very diverse family, and I want our brothers and sisters and those not related to me to be safe. And so I come to you today for two reasons. To first remind us of how we got here, which I think folks are aware, but there are some points that I think would be well addressed by the commission. And secondly, to issue a warning to the commission. So first, the reason why so many gathered for Mike Brown was not because this is a new atrocity. Police brutality is real. It's real for everyone, whether folks want to admit it or not. But the reason folks gathered was because of the brutality of the brutality. When someone is allowed to lie in the street and their mother is not allowed to approach, it is hurtful. It is hurtful for the whole community, and it is reminiscent of things that I thought we were long past. When we came out on August 10th to demand accountability and demand answers, which we were promised that night, and that's why folks went home, we were then again marched from one building to the other and to the other and to the other, and when we demanded to enter our own tax dollar paid facilities, we were turned away. You can hear us screaming in the background to let us in. And until you let young people like us, like folks that are standing out in front in the freezing cold or the burning heat, access the governments that we are entitled to access, you will continue to see people in the streets. You will continue to see the businesses disrupted. You will even begin to see the fires of real flames in real businesses, because if you don't give people a real outlet, the ones that the Constitution said we are allowed to have, then there will be no justice and no peace, because only peace can come from justice. I want to remind us the difference of justice versus mercy. Mercy is something we give. If you needed a piece of paper, honey, I got you. But justice is something that we are all due. It is something that is right. It is something that my children deserve to go to school. It doesn't matter that I'm raising a little black boy. He deserves to go to a school that will be accredited, that will be able to be a grown and productive and successful young man. And so with that, I issue a grave warning to the commission today. We know that you, in your heart, want to do great things. You want to see positive change for this community. And we know that your brothers and sisters in power will try to stop you. They will try to stop you by enticing you with money, with special loans, special buildings at your churches, special donations. We know that they will try to entice you because they do it time and time again to commissions. They take your findings and they shelve them. We won't let them do that to you as long as you will commit that you will take our people power and put us to work. We will be your backbone, and we will hold those feet to the fire, as painful as it may be for all of us, because our lives and the lives that don't look like me all depend on it. It's hard not to be passionate when you see little boys and girls dying in the streets, when you don't know that you can be safe driving with your husband. When we first moved up, I laughed at my husband for telling me we'd moved to a police state. I told him he was wrong. I told him, how could St. Louis, the big city, we moved from Kentucky, how could this be worse? And then I saw Mike Brown lay on the street, and I knew we had gone backwards in time. but I won't stand for it, and I know y'all here won't either, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you hearing my passion, and I appreciate every single one of you today, and I hope that you will hear my words and know that we are serious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Miller. I've been in education for 80 years. Is this thing working? I don't like all this publicity here, but anyway, that's what I'm thinking here. Yeah, you know, St. Louis is the most racist city in the country. Read a book. Read a book that goes back to World War II. It's called Mapping Decline. Some of you have read it. Good, good. And it's true. You know, I've lived through the Pruitt-Igos and all of the whatever, pushing the blacks, the minorities north, white flight west. Now they got to go way beyond St. Charles because they're running out of land over there. Housing, racism. We're not going to address these problems of racism. You guys aren't going to do it. They can't do it in the federal government. They can't do it in Watts. They can't do it in Chicago. They can't do it in New York. Why could this committee of 16 be able to do it? Let's work on some things like I'm an educator. That's where we need help, a lot of help. Someone mentioned the Commissioner of Education being pushed out now. I agree with Bill, or whatever his name was, from the City Board of Education, one of the elected committee members. And St. Louis City, I think, is doing a good job. I hope some of you people made recommendations for a new commissioner. It's too late now, but they wanted to push through someone that's inside. They didn't want a national search, but we made them do that. And I've recommended some people. Dr. Adams from the city of St. Louis. He's doing a great job. He came from Louisiana after Katrina, after they were wiped out. And they didn't get much service from the government. No, no, no. Had that have been in, you know, a high-priced area, well, they'd have gotten a lot of money. But anyway, that's beside the point. It's not money. We need great teachers. Look at the superintendent of Los Angeles School District. What was his name? Deasy, John Deasy. And he's been there 4 years. I've got to find this. I don't ever get organized, but anyway, bear with me just a second. Office of the Superintendent. He just got kicked out of there because he testified for Vergara versus State of California. Does anyone know what that is? Well, get on the web, look up Vergara versus State of California. Why don't the unions and the academia get together? I've always found confrontation doesn't accomplish much. How about working together? And what is that? That's where seniority, tenure, is being squashed. And the judge ruled it's unconstitutional. It's against civil rights. The poor teachers get moved out of the high rent district, and where do they get moved? Out here. Ferguson, Florissant, Riverview Gardens. That's why the judge. And this is going to be spreading. But I don't want to get involved in, with, beating the unions. I'm for unions too, but not for somebody working for 18 months and then being there for what? Life. Good teachers don't need that. If you're a great teacher, if you're a good teacher, you don't need seniority or tenure. They're going to keep you. But first in, last out. Packnett, she's with the Teach for America. She's on this committee. She sends teachers out, new teachers, after they've been trained. But here we can't do that. Yeah, I know my time's up, but let's kind of follow the model that St. Louis is doing. I don't care if it's a charter school, whatever kind of a school it is, if it's free for the kids, let's not transfer these kids out. In St. Louis City now, they've got some great schools for STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. You said my time is up? Well, okay.
It is.
But anyway.
Can I get your name?
All night.
Thank you very much.
Can we get your name, sir?
All I can say is I'm sick and tired of kicking the can down the road. I want something done now. All right now. Not 6 months from now. And I know Governor Nixon said, here, give me some input immediately. Well, take this study that comes from Washington University. We're all in this thing together. Is anyone familiar with that?
For the sake of all,
No. I just want to get the study. Our friend from Twice U, she's left. For the sake of all. Millions of research, data accumulated. You can start here and send something up to Jefferson City. Things that we can do now. Don't push the can down the road. And Nixon asked for it. Okay, anyway.
thank you very much.
That was Robert Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Okay, I want to thank the committee for staying here, at least listening to us, and I promise I won't get emotional this time. I want to give you guys a little history lesson from the community's perspective. My mom and dad pushed education diligently, but my mom used to always say, you can be very educated, but if you don't have mother wit, and some of you guys know what mother wit is, you don't have anything. So let me give you a little background, and I'll be expeditious. I see you guys standing. My family and I originally lived in West County. We lived in the Valley Park area. And in any area that you live in, you're going to have diversity that comes with just living and having life. But because of our economic status, I got in a position where I could purchase a home. But at that time, the real estate agents were doing what is called steering. Is anyone familiar with that term? So even though I wanted to remain in West County with my family, by the way, all 6 of my children had 4.0 grade point averages and over. Because of my economic background, I was steered over here to North County. All I can say was it was a culture shock. I've had 3 children to graduate from Hazelwood East. My 21-year-old daughter was a honor student for 3 years. She was an all-star on the basketball team at Hazelwood East. To be told in her final senior year, she was too fat. They weren't going to be able to use her. This is a child that had a potential to go to any university in the country. She's now depressed and had a dead-end job at McDonald's. My second son, 20-year-old, the one that I told you about briefly, aspired to be a football player. He loved football, and he loved Hazelwood East playing football. He even played a whole year on a broken ankle after I told him, no, stop. No, I have to go to my practices. I have to play for my team, just to be told, we don't need you anymore. But the history that I want to give you, I did research when I moved into Spanish Lake. When I was a little girl, I used to always want to live in Spanish Lake. I thought it was just beautiful, just awesome. I used to just gaze at the houses. I said, oh man, this would be so terrific. I was searching on the internet one day and I ran across this YouTube film, and you guys can look it up on YouTube. It's called Spanish Lake the Movie. Is anybody familiar with that? Spanish Lake the Movie talked about how all the residents had agreed with one another that they would not sell to blacks. And some of the people didn't stick to their word. They needed to move out, and so they did sell to blacks. So we're doomed before we even get to start to get this piece of the American pie, because we're moving into a community that doesn't want us. Then secondly, the media plays an important role on how we're perceived. A lot of people don't know that we're educated, articulate, and that we do care to uplift our community, because they judge us from what they see in the media. So what I am challenging to you guys, and I want to let you all know, I recently just lost a disabled child in January. And in his memory, I purchased a home in Bell Fountain Neighbors, paid cash for it, to start a legacy for him called Marty's House. And what it is to be is a resource center, because God has blessed me with being a mom and 23 years of life of his life, to be real resourceful in education, giving resources on Medicaid, Medicare, accessible equipment, and veterans that are having a hard time, working through the system. And we thought this would be a next awesome step for us to give back to the community. It's a non-for-profit, and we also were gonna, if we had to feed people, clothe them, however God led us. It has been a nightmare. We've had some of the Caucasian neighbors in the neighborhood threatening us, telling us we don't belong there. The building inspector harassing. So people, you don't know our plight unless you walk in our shoes. I mean, there's a lot of underlying issues, and that's what the black elephant, no pun intended, is in the room. Not only have we not talked about it and kept the conversation secret, our European counterparts have too. So until everybody looks into their soul, let's wipe the slate clean. Because, most of us, we've endured for so long, we've just learned that we can overcome. But everybody has to overcome. You have to look into your heart. It's a mindset. Some people are so deep-rooted with their racism, their grandfather taught it, their grandfather taught it, their grandfather taught it. They taught it to their kids. And in my opinion, Darren Wilson is a product of that. That's right. Everybody, talked about how he felt no emotion, and I mean, that's been bred in him, deep in him, and that's scary. When we come to a place in the United States where children are dying at the hand of an officer that's supposed to protect us, it's deeper than deep, y'all. You all can put y'all heart and soul in it, but it's very, very deep. To sum it up, the only thing that I would want to say, we do support you. My community supports you. My family supports you. I know you guys handed out flyers for anyone that wanted to be in a capacity of running for an office or anything. We're definitely on board for that. But I have one question, and I would like for somebody to not answer it tonight, but I want you to think about it. How can you expect the men, the women, and the youth in my community to serve with law enforcement when you have a legal system that puts a felony on their head when they turn 18? Taylor. R-O-D-L-L Taylor.
Thank you. Oh, you're more than fine. Peace, peace. My name is Vonzel Sawyer. The babies call me Almighty Understanding Allah. I'm actually from Denver, Colorado. I'm not from Missouri, but I actually lived in Missouri for about 7 years or so. Myself and my wife, wherever she went to. We run an organization called Coach Brigade and Coach 100 TV, and we actually came out here to try to get the feel of what's not being broadcasted on CNN and all the other channels that we see in other states. The main reason why I wanted to say anything to you guys at all is because mainly I had a few things to say to the commission board here, and then also to the people that are living in Ferguson. As far as the folks in Ferguson, I want to tell you guys right now, especially to my black folks that are out here, y'all be prepared. This is not over. It's nowhere near over. I'd like to tell you guys about a program that the military has right now that all of these officers that are standing in the hallway know about, a lot of these police chiefs know about. It's called the Resettlement and Internment Plan, okay? They're planning to do a lot of different things with a lot of the black communities. There's also something very, very important going on in my city, in Denver, Colorado, where military and police officers are being trained. There's a full-blown camp that's been set up to train them on how to deal with black or so-called African Americans. Okay? And I just really want you guys to understand how important that is, because this is an ultimate plan. A lot of people wanted this brother not to really say too much because he started taking us back to the past. And really what you guys have to understand is this is 379 years of problems and issues, and nobody really wants to bring up the real issue, which the brother went all the way back to. But we have a real issue here where, one, the Caucasian race and the Caucasian people of this Western Hemisphere are in debt to the black people that built this nation up on their backs. They're in debt, period, point blank. If nobody wants to admit it, that's fine. I'll be the young black guy that does, okay? Then not only that, what you guys have to understand and respect is that the whole thing of, like this woman was just speaking about now, when a black person tries to buy a home or purchase some land in a specific place, that's going on across the nation. What is it called? Yeah, steering and just basically resettlement of a group of people that are considered to be in what they call a blighted neighborhood. I won't go into all that. Second, I just really want to warn you all to, I understand that dealing with the police officers and making that relationship better is something that's crucial. Dealing with your commission is something that's very crucial, but you all need to start educating yourselves on as well as far as the law goes and things of that nature. What a lot of these officers will not tell you. Nowadays, officers have the option to read you your remand rights, okay? So if an officer is arresting you, he can either give you remand rights or he can say, I don't feel like doing it, okay? And that's not something that's even close to our constitutional rights, okay? A lot of you all need to understand as well, you don't have to give up your name when you're dealing with an officer. A lot of states now have signed a bill where if a person does not give their name to an officer, even though they haven't done something wrong, they can still be arrested. But this state is not one of those states, okay? Please start educating yourself about what rights you do have and what rights you don't have. And please understand that, yes, our officers are now being trained and militarized. And they're being told this from the highest all the way up to Obama. And I feel bad for them as well, because a lot of them are taking on things that they're gonna have to take on and explain to their children way down the line. The only thing I also have to say towards the commission is I look at a lot of you folks, and myself and my wife, we deal with a lot of the community back in our home state, all over the nation. And one thing that I do see with this group of people here, like everybody said, your hearts are in the right place, but the disenchantment is there. And let me tell you where the disenchantment comes into play. The disenchantment comes into play where you don't have people like my age, 27 and under, sitting up here with you all. Get some youth up there. I understand your governor he's not over 40. How old is the governor? Young guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. At the same time, you guys need us, because at the end of the day, we're gonna be the same people that have to take over all this stuff. The babies are gonna have to be the same people that come up into this situation and still have to do something about it at the end of the day. Oh, that's fine. 1 second for me. I just have one more thing to say. And so just to let you all know, please look that up though. Internment and resettlement plans for the Black Nation of America. And then folks, I also just want to let y'all know as well, any information that you all need as far as learning your rights or anything of that nature, just go to learnmyrights.com. You can learn all that information at that website. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Chandler, spelled C-H-A-N-D-L-E-R. Okay. And one of the things that I would like to say, I have a notepad here, but we wanted to point out the fact that of the commission, from what we've seen, about 4 of you are actually on the ground in Ferguson with the protesters. Everyone else, we don't know where you came from. So you don't know necessarily what the people are experiencing out there. So as the other individual said, it would be nice if you actually got out there and talked to the people. When you have children and they have a problem, you speak to your children, you talk to them, and you find out what's on their mind. That's one of the things that would be wonderful if you tried to do. Secondly, a lot of the issue when it comes to the police force is when you police, when you bring in police from a whole nother community to police a community that they have no idea of what their background is, and except for what's displayed on media, and media sensationalizes the crime in the black community. So you have people coming from primarily white communities, policing a black community. They don't have any black friends, maybe one or two. And that's the only interaction that they have with African Americans. And they're scared because the only thing they can see is violence. They've never sat down and talked to anyone, gotten to know anyone of African descent, and then they have this fear because it's perpetuated through the media. And then they don't go out to actually experience it for themselves, okay, to get to know someone. So that's one issue. Secondly, and I don't know if everybody's gonna agree with me, but personally, if I have an issue and I call the police, I want them to have all their powers. But I don't want the abuse of power. So while you keep the police with all their rights and their powers that they can enforce the law, but you have tougher penalties for them, or some penalties. How about that? Let's start with some penalties for them when they abuse those powers. So the issue, if I'm in trouble, I want the police to protect me. However, I don't want them to abuse me, and I want them to have tougher consequences for them abusing the powers that are given to them, because they are law enforcement. They know what is to be done. They know the laws, so they should follow them. They should abide by them. They should enforce them, but they should not abuse them. You know, at my job, because of what I do, I'm held to a higher standard. I won't say what I do, but I'm held to a higher standard at my job when it comes to the things that I have to enforce at my job, okay? And I think it should be the same for the police officers. So I'm not for stripping them of their powers and the opportunities that they have to do to enforce the laws, but I am for consequences because of the actions that the power that's given to them is so extreme that if they violate them, they shouldn't have a free walk. That's not fair. You cannot ask a community to trust a people that has power and they abuse their power consistently, okay? So as far as education is concerned, I want to talk about that. In St. Louis County, the majority of the counties here go over their 30%. How about you let them give that money to the school systems? Ferguson Florissant school system is losing accreditation. So every bit that they go over that 30% that they have allotted to them by the state for funding, donate that to the school system. So their schools can, you know, they're always, they don't have money for education, but you're extorting money out of people every day through the police. Give it to the schools. You know, I think that's a suggestion. You go over 30%, you go to 50%, you have 20% donated to the school district. I mean, I'm not a complainer. I feel like if you're gonna have complaints, you should also have solutions. So I think about the things that I have a problem with, and I present solutions with them also. Okay, you police people, you bring them into the community, make a residency requirement. If you're gonna police the citizens of Ferguson, make them live there for 5 years first. Get to know your community. Get to know the people that live there. These are solutions.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, thank you for your service. I am Patricia Lee, Patricia-Lee, and I serve as the director, an attorney, faculty member at St. Louis University School of Law, over legal clinics as well. First, let me say that my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my uncle, my great-aunt all lived here in St. Louis, and they all left. And they left for the lack of economic opportunities, and they also left because of race relations. I grew up hearing their stories in Chicago before I moved here, and I came back to see what I could do in the context of a legal clinical program. So what I want to mention to you today is that, in my opinion, justice does mean economic opportunity. Justice does mean a good education. Justice does mean positive race relations. And justice also means stopping the outrageous municipal warrants that are being enforced against people, human beings. This needs to stop. And I call your attention to today's St. Louis Post-Dispatch article, and there's an editorial about the difference between real change and fake change. So I'm urging you to look at this issue, educate yourself about this issue, not only what is in the articles today, but there's other articles, whether they're in the St. Louis American or the Riverfront Times, about what is happening. And these are all interconnected to each other. And I thank you for this opportunity, the fact that you've listened to the community tonight, and I know it's not an easy job, but keep in mind that we have some faith in you to listen to all of us and to make some real change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janice Andrews, and I own a business in Ferguson, Missouri. And first of all, I would like to say I apologize for raising my voice to everyone in this room. That is not my character. I am here because I am in an urgent emergency. And I come before the committee. I apologize to the committee and to every person in this room. I'm a business owner. I'm a mother. I have lived in Ferguson for 20 years. I own a business in Ferguson. My life savings have gone into this business. And I come to you and I urgent plea. I've heard everybody requesting here, not saying none is greater than the other one, but out of urgency, could you please take in consideration the businesses that have been affected here, the livelihood that is gone. My livelihood is gone. It was announced all over the world that Little Caesars burned down. My building is adjacent to Little Caesars. Little Caesars did not burn down. The business that I'm in was totally destroyed. I owned an upscale resale shop, not resale. I sold antiques, collectibles, jewelry, and furniture. I had a clientele list of 600 people. I had customers from all walks of life to come into my business, and I made my business a relaxing and safe place for anyone to come in there. And people would come in there after a hard day's work, and they would say, I feel so good in here. It feels so good in here. Oh, I had a hard day at work, but I love coming to your place. I had everyone from bus drivers to doctors come into my business and sat with me. One particular doctor that I was talking to say, Janice, she called me from Georgia, and she said, Janice, the jewelry you used to show me was well over $500,000, and it's all gone now. It was burnt up in the fire and flames. And my voice may have raised, and again, I apologize for that, because I don't want you to see the anger. I don't want you to see the hurt. I want you to see the need. And I stand before you today as a business owner, and I want to know, how is my city, how is my county, how is my country going to have my back after I gave all? I've raised 3 sons here in this city that have no arrest records. I raised 3 sons to the glory of God that were fortunate to go to college. All mothers didn't get a chance to that. Not saying I'm any better, because someone else could tell a better story than me, and I'm grateful. I lost everything in that fire. And I don't want to stand here and beg. I'm not begging. I'm saying when you go home tonight, my need is urgent. I raised my voice because I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to be known. It was announced all over the world that Little Caesars burned down. So if you would have went to my GoFundMe site this morning, it was only $1,400 there. My insurance was not enough to cover everything that I lost in that fire. I tried to give a fine upscale place and some place for people to go. As a dark-skinned businesswoman, I have faced racism. I have gone into the bank and had a policeman stand with his hand in his pocket, getting ready to draw the gun, because I sold a lady an antique postcard with a black woman on it, which is very rare. And she gave me a check, and they didn't want to honor my check. And I was on my way out of town to buy more merchandise. And when I got to the bank in Wentzville, they took my check and refused it. And then not only refused it, they couldn't believe I was the business owner. So those are the things I have to counter every day. But still, I choose to be positive. Still, I choose to push on. So I ask you, please, I haven't received a call from anybody. I have talked to people and still have the number of radio, not radio, but television stations all over the country and even in England. I've talked to people this week. But you know what? All I can say is I love my city, and I've been here for 20 years. I didn't expect that. The first time I didn't get looted. And now only thing that's being offered now is loan for the business owners. Some people may feel like 0%. 0% is good, but it happened already. We're in a state of emergency. We've taken out loans once before. And when we took out these loans, I had to take out loans to stay afloat. Before, I had just got to a point where I went from making really great income 1 month to nothing. And all of my money for 2.5 years, I invested back in my business to grow it, to produce something great to my business. Every day when I woke up, I said, how can I make this business better? How can I serve my community? When I went shopping every day, whether it was on a 100, 200, to all the way down to Florida, looking for something for my customers. When I went shopping for them and spotting for them, I always kept my business in mind, how I can make it a better place to my community. But my community did not have my back on Monday night. There was not a policeman there. I'm not here to point blame, because if I live in the past and if I live in negativity, you know what? It would overtake me. I have a dream inside of me. My things were taken from me, but not my dream. And I'm asking you all, how can you all help me to keep my dream as a business owner and a resident of Ferguson? Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Hi, my name is Mia Henderson. I'm a transplant. I came here about 7 years ago to go to school, and I'm hoping to stay. And I just wanted to ask you to consider a couple of specific ideas that I have as you do your work over the next year or so. The first regards voting. I mean, I think it's been made really clear that certainly here in Ferguson, in municipal elections, people are not voting. I think the number was like 11% of the electorate in the last election. There have been plenty of studies that have looked at kind of when to time votes and how that impacts voter turnout. I hope that you'll consider making the recommendation that Missouri go to moving municipal elections to coincide with larger elections. It seems pretty clear for me, certainly from some studies out of California, that that really makes a huge difference. And I think for people who work jobs where they can't always take off, that sort of consolidating things really makes a lot of sense. So I hope that you'll look at that. The second is regarding policing, which we all clearly know is a huge issue. Like I said, I've lived here about 7 years, and I've been pulled over once for a minor traffic violation. It was in Clayton, and I had done what he said I had done, but he was so pleasant. I rolled down my window. It was late at night. He said, "Good evening, ma'am. Do you know why I stopped you?" Whatever. He asked for my license. He could tell I was a little bit panicked, probably, and he said, "Just sit here. It's all right. I'll be right back after I run your license. Don't worry about anything." That's not what's happening in a lot of our region. I think that, first off, it should be the case that a stop in Clayton should look just like a stop in Ferguson or wherever. I hope that you will make some recommendations for things like, when I was a teacher, I think they called it a buddy teacher that I had. Like, I would go and watch her teach, and she would come and tell me what I was doing wrong. Why can't Ferguson PD do ride-alongs occasionally with police officers from places like Clayton and be expected to come back and police similarly when they enter? There's no way that an officer in Clayton or Frontenac is walking up to any citizen and going, "What the F are you doing?" And you hear that all the time from residents up here. Like, those expectations should be the same, and maybe with opportunities to learn and leadership that actually shows that they expect that, we would see things change a little bit. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Darian Wilson. Although I may not look it, I am 16 years old. I am a junior in high school. I go to McClure, South Berkeley. And I just came up here to say how this whole rioting has affected me. You know, first of all, I come from a two members in family. That's just me and my mom. That's all it is, just me and my mom. And that's my whole life. And I'm not out there protesting or rioting because I know what she would do to me if I would. And I just came out here because I want to tell you that from my side, from my perspective of what's going on, is that I'm not pointing fingers at the police, because if it was up to me, I would say Darren Wilson pretty much did his job. Now, he did it in a way that was kind of excessive, but he did his job. And I just like to say that I've never been in trouble with the police ever in my life, but when I've dealt with the police, when something went on in a neighborhood or we've got broken into, all of them, pretty much of them, were Caucasian, and they were very pleasant to me. They were very nice to me. And I would like to say that not every white person is bad. About 50% of white people that I deal with, they're pretty nice to me. And I've always been told that I was born with 2 strikes against me, because I'm black and I'm a male. And I believe that, but I also believe that there are white people in here that can help me, and just such as teachers in my school. And right now, I can't say I'm a good student, a perfect student, but I can say that when it comes down to crunch time, I do my work. And I just want to say that all what's going on here, I still have faith in Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Let's excuse me, sir. Let's respect that young man's opinion. Let's respect his capacity to stand in front of all of us. God bless you, but we want to affirm our young people, so thank you, young man. Yes, ma'am. Sir, we heard you. We thank you. We thank you and we heard you. We affirm that the man, brother.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good
Yes,
evening. I'm Lula Howell, and I'm a longtime resident. I've been in Ferguson 34 plus years, and I live in the area right where all the fire took place. And the night of that fire, I didn't get any rest because I was afraid that it was going to, catch my subdivision and burn houses, but God, protected it. But I would like for the commission, since you're selected by the governor and you have direct contact with the governor, can you find out from him why he made the exception that night with that neighborhood when we were told that the National Guards would be up there at Buzz Westfall, but the night of that, we didn't have anyone there protecting our property. It just so happened it didn't burn from those buildings because we were right at it. I'm in that subdivision that's right in that area where all that fire was. And I would like for you all to find out from him why he made that exception, because it was said that he was told to back off, but he didn't back off from Clayton, and he didn't back off from South St. Louis. So please check on that for me, please.
So,
It's an excellent question, and I am asking him, but I think you need to ask him too.
You mean like in a letter or something?
Call the governor's office, email the governor's office, write the governor's office, and ask him that question. Because when it comes from the citizens, then you get an answer, I hope, that will answer your question.
Right,
So
because
I'm not passing the buck, but I am suggesting that you and many others ask him as well?
Right, because there's a lot of unanswered questions concerning that.
Okay, these two gentlemen.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Neighbor, and I'm a manager of the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team. I'll be very brief in my comments to you. I left my card with the young lady right behind me for you to contact us. Mr. Graham, Mr. Billy Graham, was here in 1999. He did a crusade here in St. Louis, and his son, Reverend Franklin Graham, was here in 2009, and he completed a festival that was attended by 69,000 people from this area. And their message was sharing hope through Christ. And our rapid response team, we're made up of over 1,700 crisis-trained chaplains that are deployed periodically throughout the world. Usually we respond to natural disasters, school shootings recently, and now we find ourselves here at Ferguson. And our mission here is sharing hope in crisis. And this community is obviously in crisis. Myself and my coworker, we've been here with you for the last 7 hours. I've been praying here for you and for this community for the last 7 hours while I've been in this room. And I heard your cry, your heart cry, each one of you, as you gave personal testimony at the beginning. And I understand that God has brought us together here for his purpose with this group. I just have that feeling. There's a lot of work to be done here. We have many chaplains that are en route here tonight and will be in the next several days. You will see our blue shirts in the community. We have been in businesses here for the last couple of days. We have met with church leaders in the community. We have scheduled appointments with more in the coming days. We have met with law enforcement, National Guard, and the mayor, a senator yesterday. And so we want to work for you and work with you. We want to be with the community, and we need to know, we need to hear from the community and from the commissioners on how you could use us in our services. We provide training, we listen to people, and I'll leave my comments short and turn the mic to my friend Ken.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Commission, community, law enforcement, and others. It's a privilege for us to be here. As Jeff said, we deal with hope in crisis. We deal with grief and trauma globally. Wherever there is an issue and a need, we respond. Not to take over, not to be the primaries, that's your responsibilities you have, but we're here to aid, to help, and assist. What each one of you need to know, this present reality, starting with the commission first, that God loves you. Community, every one of you, you need to understand that God loves you. Law enforcement, you need to understand that God loves you. And Brother Wilson needs to understand that God loves him too. He loves every person equally the same, and there is no partiality in him. That message needs to be communicated, that we all understand that. And you guys have a heavy responsibility, but you have been chosen for the assignment. You've been called to it. You'll be responsible for the policy making and so forth. But you will need boots on the ground. And we are willing and able and equipped to do that, to partner with law enforcement, to partner with the community, to partner with you to be those ears and eyes on the ground where people are hurting. And listen to their cry, listen to their hurt, and move forward to meeting the need. I am a redeemed child of God. I believe that God wants to use this part of the world in this nation for such a time like this. I am also a father, a husband. I have 2 sons. I am a pastor. I am a rapid response chaplain with the ministry. Brothers out there, I'm a retired law enforcement officer, so I know all of the issues and the hurts and the pains and all of these things going on with each one of you. And this is what we do, hope in crisis. And I believe each one of you understand the fact that you are in a crisis. If you don't understand that, you're dismissing the reality. So we're available to you. We're willing to help you. Just let us know what we can do. And remember, God loves you.
Thank you very much.
We're going to wrap it up with these 2 people, and they're both residents of Ferguson.
My name is Ankenbrand, A-N-K-E-N-B-R-A-N-D. And I really want to talk to you, Ms. Blackman, that when Judy Kimner talked about education, I'm really worried about education also. And I think you grasped her words, but you didn't hear beneath them. And there's a real concern in education today because a lot of parents, black and white, don't support their kids at school. They don't show up for conferences and that sort of thing. And it just felt to me like when you responded to her, you sort of closed the door and that you didn't look for that extra message that was there. And I know her, so I know that's what she was talking about. So I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you for saying that. I receive what you're saying, and I'll try to listen deeper next time.
Last but not least.
Good evening, Commission. Good evening, Ferguson residents and all of you visitors. My name is Pamela Wilson. I have been a Ferguson homeowner for the last 9 years. I've had a few encounters with Ferguson police, but I will say when they did pull me over, it was because I was speeding. So they had a reason to pull me over. I live in fear every day because of my son that came up and spoke earlier, because he is African American and he is a male. And the profiling and things like that, it has not happened to us yet. And I pray that it moves past us. But the fear lies there. The non-sleeping at night, listening to the helicopters roar over our homes. I'm very, very extremely hurt with our community because there's no money. If these people don't rebuild, then no money comes back to my community. I love my farmers market. I love my gym that I come up here to work out in. I love my neighbors, black and white. This has been my home, and I chose to make it my home because at that time test scores were good, and I wanted to find a place to raise my son where he can go to school. I have an excellent benefit with Washington University School of Medicine where I'm a faithful employee. I get perfect evaluations. So I stand outside of what the media says that black people are. I don't have my degree yet, but I've been reading doctor's orders for 25 years. I love what I do. I'm in a position to educate my son with money that I don't have, that they will give me. So I have a goal to raise him without being arrested, to raise him without him being profiled. I'm really nervous about him getting his license just because of that reason. And I've been holding off. on that because of what happens. I ask, and I will talk to Mr. Nixon myself because I'm outraged. You got on the news on a Friday before all of these events happened, and you promised that we would have protection. And as I looked on the news and watched the businesses crumble because the fire department said that there were bullets and guns, but they had no protection, had the National Guard been there to protect them, to help save those businesses. I don't patronize a lot of the businesses, but they're pouring money into my community. And without them, we crumble. Yes, our education system is suffering. I am a mother that's at the school. I know every janitor there. I'm a band booster mom. I march with the band. We just had our kids down in UAPB a few weeks ago. I raise money. I work at WashU, and then I come and work free at the concession stands at his school. I am always there for every conference, Ed line. I can tell him what his grades are before he knows. And missing assignments, I have a problem with that. Nothing should be missing. You have perfect attendance. I make sure that your health is good. I am one mother that is different than what some of the norms are. I listen to the teachers when they laugh to say how many people have showed up for conferences that night. And it is sad. And one other thing I have to say is for my Black African American people, I am very outraged with our voting. I voted in August, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I voted against Mr. McCullough in August, but had it been enough votes in August like we did to get Obama in the office, had it been enough people to show up, he wouldn't have even been on the ballot for November. So I have a problem with, I don't know how we can fix that issue. I may not even know what we're voting for, but I show up every single time that it's time to vote. And I cast a vote every single time because too many people have lost their lives to give me that right. So I don't know how we can fix that problem, but that is one that needs to be fixed. And if you all have ideas of how we can get money to rebuild our community, I don't know if these businesses will stay. If they don't, you already know what that's about. So those are my concerns. Thank you all for your time.